Hi, I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell, and in this video I'm going to do a discussion on the prisoner's dilemma and also the problem of free riding. And I'm going to show how the prisoner's dilemma factors into this understanding of free riding. I've got a few questions on my YouTube page, messages asking to do a discussion on the prisoner's dilemma. The dilemma isn't that easy to construct. It's much more difficult to try and convey the information so that it's understandable. Hopefully, I'll do a good account of describing the prisoner's dilemma, but also talking about how this idea of collective action factors into the problem of free riding when we're trying to make sense of sort of collective action and collective behavior. So in this video, there'll be two things that I'm trying to do. First, we'll do the prisoner's dilemma, flesh it out, make sense of it, and then we'll move on to the problem of free riding and tie the two in. So hopefully it'll be informative. Okay, with that, let's begin. So this is the prisoner's dilemma and the problem of free riders. Alright, so the prisoner's dilemma and the problem of free riders. Alright, so to begin, we have to make sense of the prisoner's dilemma. Exactly what is it and how is it constructed? The first thing is there's many different ways to construct the narrative. The narrative isn't necessarily important. The only thing that really is important is that you have two parties that's playing the game. This idea of game theory comes up in sort of economic theory, social theory, but social scientists also use this idea of the prisoner's dilemma to make sense of collective action. And it's not as intuitive as you think, right? You think that human beings would innately want to cooperate and work together. What this does is show actual otherwise. In order to make sense of this, however, the first thing that we need to do is we need to symbolize all the different, the shorthand, or at least my shorthand, and conventional shorthand for the prisoner's dilemma. The version of the prisoner's dilemma that I'm going to be giving you is a bit more sort of logical in its structure, because I think it makes the clearest sort of pedagogical tool, right? It's an easy way for you to understand what the dilemma is, how to make sense of it. So with that, let's begin. Alright, so there's going to be a number of letters that I'll be using, and I'll tell you what these letters are as the game progresses. And this is in no particular order. The first one will be the letter R. Anytime you see the letter R in the game, it will stand for reward. There's the letter S. Anytime you see the letter S in the game, it stands for sucker. You'll see the letter D. The letter D in the game will stand for defect, and I'll explain that in a second. For the letter C. The letter C will stand for cooperate. Number 5, P. The letter P will stand for punishment. And then lastly, number 6, the last one is T, and the letter T will stand for temptation. Alright, so we have 6 letters that's part of this game. R for reward, S for sucker, D for defect, C for cooperate, P for punishment, T for temptation. Okay, so that's set up. The next thing that we need is we need our parties, right? So here are our letters, and we need our parties. P-A-R-T-I. Alright, the first party we'll name Bob, and the second party we'll name Jane. Okay, so we have Bob and Jane. Okay. Now the way that this works, to make an assessment of cooperation and collective actions, is to create a narrative. Again, the narrative doesn't particularly matter. You can structure this narrative however you want. Imagine that Bob and Jane go to rob a grocery store, and they're thwarted in their plan, right? So the police officers intercept them. They can't rob the grocery store. The police take Bob and Jane to the precinct, right? And they separate Bob and Jane so that Bob doesn't know what's being discussed with Jane, and Jane doesn't know what's being discussed with Bob. So you can imagine that this might look like this, right? You might have a room with a huge division, and you have Bob on one side and Jane on the other, right? So Bob doesn't know what's being discussed with Jane. Jane doesn't know what's being discussed with Bob. Well, what we're going to do right now we have everything we need in order to actually begin the game. And we're going to construct the prisoner's dilemma to see what the options are for Bob and Jane, and to see what they're most likely and least likely to choose as outcomes for themselves. Alright, so now we need to start plugging in some of these variables or terms into the game. And as I said, if you need to watch this video once or twice to follow it, I feel like I'm going a little bit fast through it. But this is hopefully going to be clear in the end. The first thing that we need to do is we need to focus on these two concepts, right? Cooperate or defect, right? So C and D will be the first things that we need to plug into our game. So the first thing that we need to do is to use our terms C and D. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to use our terms C and D.